So that was episode 1 of Loki. What did you think?
Very paradoxical
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of how time's controlled, but yet if he was able to be a variant, then that would mean then that they want him to be a variant. So it would be in keeping with this supra timeline.
Right, yeah, yeah.
It's also it's a very strange feeling for a god to be bound by anything, actually. By a bureaucracy, no less.
Yeah, that's what I thought was amusing. He kept trying to say this is an illusion, this isn't real.
Well, yes, because by being a god, well, with that, by definition, that comes with answering to no one.
Yeah. This did a good job of making Loki come to terms with his own ego, because he's so cocky and confident and all of that, like to make someone like that doubt themselves.
It does make him relatable. Many people probably have felt what he felt.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it's just, he's a god.
Pretty much what was assumably the highest being that could ever exist.
Yeah, until the Time Lords, the Timekeepers.
Wrong show.
Is it though? When they said Timekeepers, I'm like, do they have a Lardis that they travel in?
It's very interesting.
I was wondering how they were going to frame the narrative of what's going on. I didn't expect really like person gets captured and instead of getting punishment is brought in to help solve the crime trope that we see all too often in TV shows and movies. I don't hate it, but I wasn't expecting that. But it was amusing to see Loki, the god of mischief, cunning, of trickery, being shackled, as you said, by bureaucracy.
Indeed. In a way, it gives him a test of strength, of how he can figure out how to get out of this one.
You can't trust him ever. In the end, when he's like, I don't enjoy killing people, and, it's all that, and he pointed to himself when he said weak. I'm like, he could be lying. That's what he does. He's really good at it. He could just be using you as an out. I don't know how I feel about the big bad also being Loki. It makes for, talk about paradoxical. Okay, so Loki's the villain and the hero?
Like in real life.
Yeah. But this time it's two separate entities. Yeah. You know how I feel about a big bad, like, and a show building towards. I was like, okay, we have something that is so evil, is so menacing and maniacal that they need Loki to help battle it. You need Loki to help battle Loki. Makes sense. It does make sense, but it's also kind of like, oh.
His ultimate challenge, though, can he outdo himself?
Yeah. So that's why I'm also not like, okay. I was a little bummed out. It wasn't something like some kind of new super villain, not just some like crafty, conniving villain that sometimes was a hero. But yeah, we have glorious purpose Loki versus newfound purpose Loki. That's pretty cool.
Yes, I can see the series going on with that.
It does raise a lot of questions, though. Like, if Owen Wilson's character knows that it's Loki doing it, when he saw Loki there, obviously they know what's going on in the timeline. I would have been like, nope, immediately pull you off to the side. Hey, guess what other you is doing? But that being said, I like the build. They established the world nicely. As I said earlier, I love Loki. Just this whole episode was just him really just battling his own ego and being forced to accept things that he just could not accept because his hubris is so deep that he's mired in it. Him just saying this isn't real, this is fake, this is an illusion. Because that's what he would do if he wanted to break someone.
As far as he knows, that could be possibly what's going on, that maybe there is more than what that reference video said. Would these timekeepers actually be a part of their own timeline, and who's keeping that timeline in check? Actually, now that I think about it, are they supposed to be gods as well?
But they sound like they're greater than gods, like super gods.
Yes, and well, that now brings in a domino effect. Well, is there a super one? a super, super, super one, a super, 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 super
And then
one.
who keeps who in check? Like you said, where does their timeline go?
Yes,
It's very much like the idea of in general society, God. There's this being that controls everything and watches over everything. Well, where is it? It's just there. Well, how does it do it? It just does. You have to accept it, blind faith, and that is not what Loki's about at all.
and assumably it keeps itself in check and doesn't have to have someone or something else keep it in check.
Yeah, apparently the timekeepers are just
Assumably perfect.
yeah. So, but I do like the idea that it is a control, a systemic control idea, much like what I described a minute ago. It's just how to keep people in line. You give them this idea, but make it greater than them, and to attain the idea of its relevance and physical nature and how it would interact with anything. Well, you don't do that. It's this statue and it's this painting and it's this icon, and that is the representation of it. The real manifestation of it is not to be. We don't go there. We don't go there. So Loki's like, can I see them? Can I talk to them? Well, they're busy. Are they though? Or are they another use of trickery, a machination to keep everyone in check? I'm not saying that this, obviously what they're doing exists, but the mythology behind it, it could extend to biblical proportions. Is all I'm saying.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, this was I wasn't expecting like, not just the whole like you got captured and now you have to help us out and we won't kill you or whatever thing. There's a lot on the table here in this first episode that the notion of a mythology and believe in it and have like time police.
It does seem rather out of place to see a god be bound by space and time.
If this place is like a kryptonite for magic and illusion and all that stuff and all the powers, even the Infinity Stones are just paperweights. That is massive.
Yes.
I gotta give a shout out to Tom Hiddleston. Phenomenal in the role, obviously. Fits it perfectly, but his acting is so good. His face when he saw the Infinity Stones, he's like, he's like, holy crap, the ultimate power. The power that killed him when Thanos was choking him. And then the Tesseract is it's like grounding electricity. It has no power. And well, then how did that? Like, and I'm pretty sure people from Doctor Who are like, "You're just go along with the freaking show." But no, I want to think about it. Like, how? Okay, if the timekeepers made the sacred timeline, but how did the TVA get made? And then what is there that's making power irrelevant? And how?
It gave him the opportunity to have an existential moment because
Oh, yeah.
he then realized, well, what is the point then of all of this? Is he basically these timekeepers' puppets, simply their plaything?
Which he's used to being the puppeteer.
Indeed.
Yeah, and that's we're talking about like there's that dichotomy there. So not only is it as usually paradoxical, there's that dichotomy of Loki, like I said, glorious purpose Loki, newfound purpose Loki, which he eventually, if he's being 100% transparent, which it's Loki. But I guess if you're presented with a more evil version of you, Scott Pilgrim and evil Scott Pilgrim, maybe they'll become best friends and go out for like tacos afterwards.
Maybe imagine teaming up and, well, this could give him a new opportunity. Well, if this is what real reality is, well, then how about trying to take over it? Then he will be the ultimate force in the universe.
And then if Loki is destined to get captured, murder his mother, then what is this Loki doing? Like, where in the sacred timeline is Loki that's like just hopping all over the place, murdering the people? Or is this like this Loki 2 seasons from now, hopping back to erase everything that's happened?
Indeed, because, well, by seeing the future, now does he have the power to change the future?
Yeah, because this could be past Loki versus future Loki. Future Loki is pissed what the TVA has done to him, but now wants revenge and is taking them out one at a time, like one squad at a time.
It did mention that, well, with one variant timeline, it can then break into various ones, and
Yeah.
what we're seeing is that branching off of branching off.
Yeah, a lot to just like whoosh.
Basically, they're trying to, well, if you can get rid of that, well, then that will then do a sort of self-destruct and things will go back to the way that they are.
It'll unravel itself and yeah. Snap your fingers and everyone dissolves. Half the universe.
So the Infinity Stones, they could do all of that, but yet they cannot do that to a whole timeline. But yet they can do all of that within one universe.
Yeah.
See. And assumably these three timekeepers cannot simply do it themselves and need to have middle management.
I mean, do you see any form of God down here doing anything?
In the mythologies, usually they do things themselves.
That's why I'm thinking it might just be a human-made construct used to keep people in line and to control them.
Sort of like the Wizard of Oz, in which nobody sees the wizard because, well, when it's found out, oh, that thing's only a projector.
Yeah.
Instead, there's a little man who's controlling the knob.
But then again, this is the Marvel universe still, so it could very well be three timekeepers, lizard men, that are controlling everything. But
as we know, they could be talking about the capabilities, but they're actually only saying what they want people to think, thinking of them as being greater than they really are.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they could be just like three machines that are making everything run.
Or they may not even exist, and there could instead be a board of people that simply came up with this, and well, this is what we're going to go with.
Yeah. The real villains are always the ones that are at the top of the bureaucratic food chain. The real liars and going down a rabbit hole. We could. But yes, this was a clever way to do it. The writing was really good, really funny. Really funny in parts, like when he was talking, he had to sign. Are you serious? Sign that one, please.
Now he needs to sign that one.
That was really clever. I liked that. A thing of everything you've ever said. To sign it. I'm like, well, I want to read that first. I don't trust institutions that are built on that mythology that I spoke of, because they can put anything in there, and when you sign it,
and
good luck.
And whom are you to turn to? Because, well, for example, if we were to go to a court, actually, there's a subordinate to theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So now what?
Yeah.
And also, we don't actually, because he didn't even realize where he was. Who are these people? I would agree, don't sign anything until you actually read it. It could be a trick.
Yeah, because imagine you get taken by a group, some kind of covert group, and then you're ushered through. Go through this, 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 sign this, do this, sign this, admit to this, do this. Without having anything explained to you. You go there, we're gonna zap your clothes off. We're gonna put you in a little jumpsuity thing. Sign this piece of paper, take a ticket, go get judged, get sentenced. But we're not going to ever really, you're not, there's no time to really ask any questions, because you're not supposed to ask any questions. That's the idea of these higher metaphysical ideals. Don't question anything. Don't question what's going on. And here in this bureaucracy, this is a bureaucratic version. Don't question anything. Well executed, well thought out. A lot to chew on, and definitely interested to see where this goes.
It raises a question of, especially, well, how can there be variance unless if people are able to have freedom to choose? But if that's the case, then how is it that only one timeline can be maintained? Do they have, to make a calculus example, they have some sort of limit formula that if it goes beyond here, then it deviates too much from the timeline? But people still can choose within this domain.
If you're late for work and they pluck you out of your timeline, do they just kill you then because you were late for work? Seems a little harsh. Just a little bit.
One needs to consider, well, now that by doing that, have you now set up a chain of events and now there's a worse situation than there would have been if you had simply let this person alone?
Well, no, because the timeline is as is, so them taking them out, the variant is out. Regular them continues on, so everything goes on as it's supposed to. So it's all predictable. It's all how it's supposed to be. See, this raises a lot of red flags for me.
But again, according to whom?
Exactly. Just be careful. Be careful who you call master. Just be careful who you call master. That's all I'm saying. And I like that this, provokes this kind of thought process. If you've watched the Doctor Who reviews, for me, it's very interesting. It's interesting. We both like to have stuff that we can just think about, to be analytical. And this brings up like philosophy and morality and ethics, the idea of bureaucracy and questioning and control. And just watching Loki struggle in kind of a prison he's never been in before. Because he's always had some degree of control. Even if he looks meek and beaten.
It's what he wants someone to think.
It's the wheels are turning. It's like that stages of denial. And he finally gets to acceptance. Like, okay. He's accepting when he said, I can't go back there, can I? So it's like, well, if I can't do that, maybe I can do this. I'm like Mr. Skeptic Man. And I'm just like, well, I don't know if I believe you, but there's clearly a more evil version of you out there. Well, theoretically, it's being painted as evil, but this could be Loki's glorious purpose. Like, what if his glorious purpose is to, like, he knows what TVA really is. He knows what the timekeepers really are, and his glorious purpose is to expose it. And, like a crusader.
So he would be the liberator. Then.
Exactly, yeah. Like, what if that's what's going on, and then they're using Loki unknowingly to stop the truth from coming out? Because these systems that are set in place will do anything to keep the illusion intact. So it's like I said, there's so much to chew on here that it's fun.
They can control time, but yet they didn't foresee him doing this.
And then this is the tricky thing of it. It makes sense, but then if you think about it, like, wait, but no. Like you said, he's branched off.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't see what's going to happen because this is new ground.
Yes.
This is the sacred timeline. This is a new timeline. Mm-hmm. As like that's what you said earlier. So that's how I'm interpreting it as well. The Star Loki's on a different timeline. So this is unknown. Yeah.
If this timeline is so perfect, then how could it have deviated into something less perfect?
Well,
unless if this is actually the actual perfection and it's building up to more perfection.
Perfection is subjective. And then the sacred timeline will sacred to who? Sacred to them. But why? Because they say so. Well, who's they? We don't know.
And well, one thing that could settle this is to let the timelines go, and whichever one survives, all right, because that one was able to
You're
persist.
the winner.
That's the winner. That's how it works with pretty much everything else in existence, both inside and outside of space and time, apparently. So
right, yeah.
I suppose what makes a timeline different.
Like a timeline food chain. You're the top of the food chain. You're the lion.
And the grand prize is you get to survive. You get to be the one and only timeline.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying earlier, it looks like there's just room for error, but how much error is dependent on. You can be running late for work, but if you miss your cab to get to work, then... So there's that margin.
Yes, like on a Cartesian plane of X, Y, and there are these dotted lines, and the actual solid line can only be in between these lines. But if it ever deviates from outside of the domain, then there's a problem, and it needs to go back, retrace, and have it go back to the tangent that it's supposed to.
Right, exactly, yeah. All right, is it okay if I go through my notes?
Oh, yes.
Real quick. When I write without looking, my notes are sometimes hard for me to read, which some of my patrons will appreciate hearing that. The part where Loki was trying to run, but kept being brought back to the, like, reminded me of the Doctor Who episode where the Slovene lady came back and she was trying to run away down the alley and the doctor kept, like, zapping her back and she'd be like, run away, zoop. Run away. That's what it reminded me of. That was really funny. That's always a gag that will always be funny to me. I don't know why. I don't want to spoil anything from American Horror Story, but it's also been out for a while, and it was one of the awful seasons. But that whole, like, the whole dialogue, if I was a robot and didn't know it, I like that. I thought it was clever writing there. So, well, I guess we'll leave it at that. And the writing, like, as I said, the writing was really good in this. Really, really good. And then right as I was writing, Avengers messed up the timeline a lot. Why?
Yes, they did.
But then they explained it. I was like, thank you, because I was about ready to go on one of my mega tangents, my nitpicks.
But it was within the domain that was permitted.
So thank you for, touching upon that, because I was gonna have some many words about that. If I had to nitpick, I don't like that Owen Wilson is in this. Don't like him as an actor. I find him extremely annoying. He's way less snarky and annoying, but just his voice is irritating.
Which role was he playing in this?
Oh no, I guess like the detective guy with the white hair, the gray white
The
hair.
one that tried to give Loki a chance instead of simply reset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I followed his career since Bottle Rocket way back in the day, but eventually I just got to a point with me where I just couldn't. He was in a movie, kind of dragged it down. Other than Zoolander, which I will stick by that one, he was cast perfectly for that. It didn't detract enough. But at first, I was kind of like, I even wrote, ugh, Owen Wilson. Ugh. He dialed it back. And I hope that he just maintains that. And to touch on something else we were talking about a little earlier, when Loki looks out the window and sees just this like super advanced civilization, I wrote, this is when a society believes in science and not mythology. The mythology is holding you back for a reason. It wants to keep you in the Dark Ages for a reason. Moving on.
No comment.
And then as we touched on, I wrote about Loki coming to terms with feeling powerless. Destiny versus fate. He had to come to terms with, this is fate. You were fated to do this. And he's like, no, this is my destiny, my glorious purpose. This is destiny. I'm destined to be king of Midgard, of Earth, of space, of all of it. And like, no, you're fated to get captured and kill your mom. But all of just like that back and forth, that like ping pong match they were having, watching Loki try and rationalize it and break through all those layers of just arrogance and ego and all of it was a treat to watch. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Only to realize that, like everyone else, there are some things that are simply out of one's control. Some things are, but some things are not. And all that we can do is, at best, work around them and see what we can do despite the circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. Once we found out that the villain is also Loki, the one that they're hunting is Loki, when they're talking about they were hunting a dangerous variant, or they captured dangerous variants, and Loki says, me, and he says, no, you're nothing but a pussycat. Makes you wonder then, this other Loki, okay. So, I really like the scene of Loki reacting to all the footage from the Avengers movies. That was nice. And then like he has like his little like, not want to say mental break when he started laughing. I was like, oh God, here he goes again. He's going to be all cocky, smarmy Loki, but he wasn't. He was like, I thought I was in control.
Very profound, which part is only the illusion that you have control, but it was actually doomed to always have been this way.
Right, yeah. And then the part where he watched himself die. Hiddleston did a great job, and just emoting from seeing the Infinity Stones to the way he reacted to watching his neck get snapped, his throat get crushed.
Yes, imagine if you had an opportunity to see yourself die, and how and when.
Last note is Loki versus Loki, yay and nay. But I went over that, why it's yay and nay. But more yay. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm ready for this. Then everything else in my notes are for my patrons over on Patreon. Overall, first episode, 2 big thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. It just had it was vibrant and did a good job of building the world. It gives us a lot to think about, to talk about, to just like think outside of the narrative and the pieces that are at play.
So much to digest.
Yeah. So definitely looking forward to seeing episode 2.
So am I.
You stuck around to the end. Thank you. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone. I tend to do that apparently. So never intentional. I'm not trying to be bad cop, good cop. Opposites attract. All right. Is there anything else you would like to add? Alrighty. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.